meaning it took at least 5 points of stamina. Quinn would have to think carefully when using this information in a match. At first he thought it wasn't so important increasing his stamina, as long as he was strong enough or fast enough, he could win his fights. But in a prolonged battle and matches against multiple enemies, as soon as his stamina dropped to 0, he would be as good as dead. Not only that, but Quinn dreaded the thought of having to fight in the sunlight with these stats. Over at the other end of the arena, Nate was busy talking to Sam about his match. "You are such a fool," Nate said. "I know, I'm sorry," Sam replied. Nate looked at the flapping cape that Sam was wearing and started to shake his head. "We just got this incredible thing and you didn't even use it properly in the fight. When he went out from your view, if you had turned around your back, it would have been protected, or you could have turtled up with the cape." "It's hard to get used to having something on your back. If someone vanishes in front of you and you know they're behind you, you naturally turn around, wouldn't you?" Sam replied. Sam then started to look at the ground as he was saddened, remembering how he had lost the match. "My win streak," Sam cried. Nate proceeded to pat Sam on the shoulder with pity before walking to his fighting spot. "You know the deal. If I win against him, then that means I win our bet, and you'll owe me those credits." As Sam headed back to the arena stands, he was praying for Quinn to kick his friend's ass. He had lost too many bets recently and was running low on credits. 3, 2, 1, and the match had begun. Surprisingly, both of them at the same time had decided to charge in. Although Quinn didn't know his opponent's abilities, his attacks were more effective closer in range. If he was going up against an elemental user, then it was always better for him to get closer anyway. And as soon as Quinn was within 5 meters, he threw out 2 blood swipes. Suddenly, Nat's speed dropped dramatically, his skin started to turn into a shiny material, and his footsteps were heavy. As the blood swipes reached and hit his body, the sound of metal clanging against each other was heard. For the first time when Quinn's attack had hit an opponent's body, it had done 0 damage whatsoever. The metal shine from Nate's body seemed to shift, and now was concentrated in his arm. It allowed Nate to move a lot faster and close the distance. He pushed his hand forward, and out came a long metal silver pole. It was too fast for Quinn to react, and the pole dug into his stomach and continued to push him back. The attack was strong, and Quinn had lost about 10% of his health. The pole continued to grow and push him back, and his health continued to fall. Quinn then grabbed onto the pole with both hands, and using all his strength, managed to stop its momentum. "Wow, looks like you're strong as well," Nate said, surprised. Not only did his opponent have a ranged attack, but seemed to have super strength now as well. Quinn pushed the pole to the side and swung out his claws, this time firing 4 blood swipes. The pole then started to retract quicker than the blood swipes and absorbed back into Nate's body. He then put both of his hands together, and the metal liquid started to form an oval shape and eventually formed a shield. Each strike hit the shield and there was no effect. However, Quinn had expected this result when Nate retracted the metal back into his body. Quinn was in front of him ready to strike, but Nate remained calm and shifted the metal over his body to the exact spot where Quinn was aiming for his head. The punch landed, but Nate's head didn't even move a single inch, and again the game had recorded no such damage. Nate then grabbed Quinn's fist and with his other hand formed the pole, whacking him to the ground. "Come on, you should be better than this," Nate said. The truth was, Nate was purposely shifting the metal into a pole rather than a sword. This way the match would last longer. It had been a while since Quinn felt like this, weak. There was only one thing left for him to try. Quinn lifted himself off the ground and started to breathe in, calming himself down. Anger would only distract him. Then he was ready, and Nate could see it too. "Come on," Nate said as he shifted the metal pole back into his body and into one of his fists. Quinn once again charged forward and threw out a blood swipe. Nate blocked the attack, easily lifting his arm and knocking it away, but it was only meant to serve as a distraction in the first place. When Quinn got close enough, Nate threw out his fist, and at the same time he responded with flash step, avoiding the strike and appearing behind Nate. Too predictable. Nate had prepared for this after watching the last match, and made sure his back was already fully covered in the metal-like alloy. Quinn then lifted his foot off the ground, let the energy go through from his toes up to his fist. As he stomped down with one foot, he pulled back one hand and let out another fist. Bang! The sound of 2 solid objects hitting each other sounded loudly in the distance. For a brief second, the 2 of them were frozen in place, and for the first time, Quinn was able to do damage, and it was a lot. Nate's eyes grew in shock as he saw the attack bring his health down by nearly half. Nate knew he was in danger, and he could no longer take the fight as easy as he did before. He swung his body and at the same time had shifted a piece of metal into a sword. But once again, Quinn had used the flash step to avoid the strike. Damn it, again, how is he so fast? As Nate turned to look at where his opponent was, he was surprised to see Quinn collapsed on the ground. Quinn was breathing heavily. He could no longer move. The use of flash step twice, including the fact that he had used hammer strike, he had pushed his body way beyond its limits. Let's do this again sometime, Nate said as he stabbed Quinn on the ground, ending the game. Although the match had ended in Nate's victory, he was more excited than ever. Looks like the military tournament is going to be a fun one this year. After finishing his intense battle with Nate, his 2 hour using the VR capsule was up, and Quinn was no longer able to participate in any more matches. Although he had lost his match, he felt satisfied. He had learnt a lot during his battle with Nate. His attacks, including his blood swipe, were not strong enough to do any damage to Nate while he was using his metal ability. However, his hammer strike skill was. Hammer strike didn't increase his strength, but now Quinn had a good idea what it did do. It was an attack that focused on the inside, an internal attack, the perfect counter to those whose abilities who hardened or transformed their bodies. Quinn couldn't wait to find out what the other tutorials the blonde man had in store for him, but he had no idea how to unlock them. The blonde man had simply said when he was ready they would unlock for him. There were 2 things this meant. One might be when Quinn's stats were high enough to complete the fighting skills requirements, or when Quinn was a high enough level. The second lesson the fight had taught him was how important stamina was. The flash step was an incredible skill that allowed him to avoid a strike in an instant, but if he used it more than twice, then he would be done for, and if he was out in the sun, he wasn't even sure he would be able to use the skill at all. This made Quinn think long and hard about what to put his stat points into in the future. Perhaps going for an agility or strength-based character wasn't the best thing after all. With that in mind, Quinn had set up an important meeting with Layla today. There was one thing he needed to learn about more than anything, especially if he wanted to get stronger in the future. It was a Sunday, so Quinn still had the rest of the day off, before having to go back to the standard military lessons for a week. The sun was out bright and early, and Quinn was standing outside the school gates, patiently waiting for Layla. Even though it was the weekend, Quinn still wore his school uniform, for he didn't have any other clothes, other than what was provided to him, and he had long grown out of his old school uniform. "This damn sun," Quinn said while his body was covered in sweat. All current stats have been halved. Ever since he had evolved from a human into a halfling, the sun seemed to bother him even more. He was covered in sweat, even though it wasn't that hot, and he was starting to have ringing headaches if he stayed outside too long. Finally, after waiting a while, Layla arrived. She was wearing a beautiful red dress that showed off her long legs nicely, along with her short hair. She still carried her bow and had her quiver by her side, and on her back was a fairly large bag. "You ready?" Layla asked, smiling. Quinn looked at the large bag on her back. It must have been heavy, he thought. "Do you want me to carry that for you?" Quinn asked, although with his stats halved and his strength draining from his body, he was hoping she would say no. "It's okay, the bag is lighter than you think. I'm using my ability to make it lighter," Layla replied. Quinn really wasn't sure if she was being truthful or not, and didn't really know what to do in these types of situations. Were you meant to insist and be pushy, or be a gentleman and offer a hand, or listen to the girl? If she said she could do it, then she could do it. In the end, Quinn didn't want to think too hard about it, and decided to just let Layla carry on holding the heavy bag. If she wanted him to really carry the bag, then she should just ask him. The 2 of them walked out of the school's premise and carried on walking until they eventually reached a nice quiet park. There were some students outside messing around, playing with their abilities, and at the same time there was some military personnel relaxing on the benches. "Peaceful, isn't it?" Layla said. "Yeah, it's kind of nice." Then a thought came into his head, of all the news he had heard on TV, about what life was like during the war, how it could start up again any second, and finally, the death of his parents. "But who knows how long it will last. That's why I need to keep getting stronger." Layla placed the heavy bag on the ground, and it seemed like it was a weight off her shoulders. Even if she was using her ability, it would be tiring for someone to keep it up on the whole walk here. That's when Layla started to empty out all the contents in her bag. There were all sorts of things inside. There were several items of thick clothing such as hats, scarves, sunglasses, and most of it seemed to be black in color. Then she continued to pull out even more stuff, lotions and lotions of sun cream, and finally she pulled out an umbrella. "Did it cost a lot?" Quinn asked, worried after seeing how much she had bought. "Don't worry about it. My family sent me the credits, and I used up what the Academy gave me," Layla replied. "Besides, I got it all from the marketplace, so it was dirt cheap." The marketplace was an online store that was used all around the world. It sold your everyday items such as food, clothes, utilities, and other things. With the use of teleporters, your items were able to be shipped to you in almost an instant, as long as you could afford one of these. If not, you would have to go to a collection point. And the military school had one of these collection points for students to use. But other than just your everyday items, the marketplace was also used by people to sell and buy beast weapons, skill books, ability books, and all sorts of things that would be beneficial to you in battles. However, to access this part of the marketplace, you would need either military personal ID, which all students got a temporary one to use during their time there, or if you were a traveler. Travelers were people who didn't work for the military, but worked for a private company and often went into portals to explore different worlds. "So, what do you want to try first?" Layla said, holding the sun cream in her hand.
Subscribe to the Pocket FM Blockbuster YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notifications. Check out our channel for more exciting shows.